Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Chantel, and welcome to tonight's episode, Girl, Share Your Story. As you know, this is the number one destination for a conversation of transformation and inspiration. And tonight is super special because we have a very incredible guest. So I want you to come in. Listen, share this with someone whose life you want to touch, because sometimes it's not enough for us to keep telling people about how they should do this right or do that right. It's really sometimes it takes hearing it from a different voice. And, it's all with the goal of us bringing other people up as we ascend high on that mountain ourselves. And this conversation is going to be very engaging. I want to see your hearts. I want to see your comments. I want you to love on our special guest tonight because just as you would want someone to recognize that they have your support, the same is true for us here. This is a circle of love, empowerment, and it's the best place to be on a Tuesday night at 8 p.m. So I am Chantel. Those of you who are joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to hear from you. I want to see your faces. I want you to love on our guest tonight as she shares her story. Now, this particular guest is very special to me. We met about 2 years ago, and what stood out from what made her stand out from the crowd and why she became so memorable is because, by the grace of God, she does not look like what she's been through. I mean, when you listen to the amount of hurdles she had to jump over to really be sitting here with us today, it will blow your mind. And what I loved about connecting with Lashonna is that she is the same person in a book, same person on the camera, same person on social media that you will meet in person. And it was just a privilege and a pleasure to meet her. And now to be sitting in front of you today, helping you to hear her story, man, it's amazing I get to do this. So with that, I want to welcome our special guest tonight, Lashonna Townsend. Now, you got to tell me, do you prefer to be called Townsend or Alfred?
It's Alfred. Townsend is
Alfred.
my maiden name, yes.
Get it correct. Lashonna Alfred, welcome today to Girl Share Your Story. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I am really honored. And what I like to do is really to have you take over the conversation. I think you have so much value, and I don't want to overshadow what you have to offer. So tell us, Lashonna, why are you the person, the woman, the entrepreneur that you are today? Where did it start?
Wow. Well, I am that person because of a lot of pain. I have, through pain, recognized my purpose. And so I believe it started earlier on in my life, even though at the time I didn't think or didn't quite know what was actually happening. But it actually started the revelation for me to understand who I really was really while I was incarcerated in a different country. So
Hmm.
in 1999, I was incarcerated in a different country. I was pregnant and I was hopeless, feeling hopeless, just really wanting to give up. I don't know if you ever had this like knot in your stomach and, just a dark space that I was in. And it was at that point where I had to make a decision, either sink or swim, if you will. I was going to either allow myself to die in the situation, or I was going to learn how to survive. And it
Hmm.
was at that moment that I made up my mind. I wasn't going back. I wasn't going to allow my past to affect my future. And so that's really where it all got started.
Wow. So you mean to tell me that in 1999 you were pregnant and about to go to prison? How did that happen?
Wow. Actually, the behind the scenes, I was actually trying to get out of a toxic relationship. And so when someone asked me to, travel to Guyana, I looked at it as an opportunity to get out of this toxic relationship. And I went and I was trafficking drugs. And I went to Guyana. And on my way coming back to America, we stopped over in Trinidad and I got caught in customs. And that's really where it all like started for me, right? You can imagine the fear, the again, the hopelessness, the trembling, that was taking place. I'm pregnant and I'm in a whole different, entirely different country than I was, used to.
Wow, wow. So how old are you at this point?
Wow, I was 20, 27,
Hmm.
27.
At
Yeah.
that very tender age where you're caught between the reality of not being a kid anymore, but then also wanting to have something better for your future, right? Everyone thinks that by the time they turn 30, they're going to be set, have a nice
Right,
house, have two children, have a
right.
husband or wife, and you're thinking about this ideal life. And here you were trying to make a way for yourself that you thought was the way to go, but then that got you caught up. Tell us why you were even introduced to drugs in the first place.
hmm Well, all my life, I mean, I was raised in a drug infested environment. And so, I say this saying that, society expects sweet water to come from a bitter well. And what that
Mm,
means is that all my life, what was deposited into me, what I was witnessing in my environment, and what I was taught, whether, verbally or just by way of behavior, was get it however you can. If you got to fight, still kill for it. And so I grew up with this mindset of, okay, we got to make it however we can. My mom, my dad, they were both murdered when I was younger. And so just imagine growing up trying to find your identity, trying to find, your place in life, and looking around and not really having anyone that you can really identify with. And so although I was raised in a loving home, my uncles and my aunt, my grandmother, they raised me and they protected me. But one of the things that was missing was that void that I was feeling on the inside. But
hmm,
as and also the conversation, so we never really communicated about my mom. We never really communicated about the loss that I was feeling. We never communicated. So I went through life as if it was me against the world. And so I just began to do what I thought was fit for the life that I was living. And so
hmm,
as I graduated high school and I moved on, I actually fell into the trap of my environment, because I never wanted to be, involved in drugs, gangs, or anything like that. And so, again, I found myself in a situation that I never thought that I would be in, and never had a desire to be in it.
hmm. So, how do you move from having this traumatic thing happen to you when you're young? Both of your parents, and my truly my condolences. Both of your parents died at the hand of someone else, and
Mhm.
then you seeing this, not being able to deal with the trauma, and in some way you buried it on the inside of you and still tried to press on. How do you go from that innocence of your childhood being robbed from you and still forge your way through that jungle experience?
Mhm.
What did it for you?
Yeah, it again, the prison experience was kind of like an incubator for me. While I was there, I had the opportunity to be faced with what I desired and where I was. And so it was at that moment that I was able to see how I was carrying this hurt, this anger, all along. And I had to decide if I was going to let it go or allow myself to be hindered by the hurt, the anger that I had buried, right? And so I was faced with that decision. What
Hmm,
do I do now? Do I just get angry? Because prison can do one or two things. It can make you angry, right? And bitter, or it can make you better.
So
And so
I,
for
I've
me,
never been in prison
mhm,
before,
mhm,
thank God. However, what I've seen of it is not pretty described to us. And then you were in prison in a foreign country, so I don't know how different the prison systems are. But like, tell us what that was like.
Wow. So, number one, they didn't like Americans. And so I came in already kind of like a target. And when I say they didn't like Americans, the officers. And so I was treated, unfairly. And I started off in a holding cell. And in that holding cell is set like a little bench that was connected to the wall and a toilet that they only flush from the outside. And so here I am, kind of clinched over on the wall, trying not to get close to the flying roaches that they had in there, the nasty stuff that was, hanging around in the cell, and just remember wishing that it was a dream. And so once I got transferred from the holding cell to the actual prison, in Trinidad, they only have one prison. It was only one female prison, and they have one male prison. And so all the women were in one cell, and it was kind of like a dormitory. And so I remember when I first got there, my mind was already made up because I was just under the belief if you do the crime, you do the time. So I wasn't like, okay, I knew I was doing something wrong. I got caught. So I just had this like, okay, here I am, right? And so, but I went in thinking, okay, I I'm either gonna survive this or I'm gonna die. Right. And so just going through that whole process, I was provoked by officers. One particular officer I was provoked by. I truly believe provocation is against the law. I've learned how to deal with it now in my wisdom now, but with provocation, it caused me to act out. And so while I was locked up, I ended up getting in a fight with an officer.
What did they do to provoke you?
She would do stuff like lock me outside the cell. She would literally follow, us to the courtroom and just be calling me names. She would, have me outside when everybody else came in to eat breakfast. She would just do little silly stuff. And so I remember even trying to get help from the upper, the higher up, and everybody was scared of her, I guess. So it was breakfast time, and she let everybody in, and I was standing out, and five other people was behind me. And I remember she opened the door, letting people out, and I put another inmate in front of me, and I told her, I said, I'm gonna push you in. So I pushed her in, and we walked got into the gate. The officer got upset. So I'm standing there, literally boiling on the inside. I'm boiling because other officers are watching what's happening and nobody is doing anything. And so I remember just having this tug of war in my mind. One part was saying, don't worry about it, right? Breakfast is only bread and butter. So it's not like you're about to get anything. And then the other part was like, no, this is unfair. You got to show her that, you don't like how you're being treated. So we went in to get the breakfast, and I took a hot cup of coffee and I threw it in her face, and it boiled over from there. I was taken into the hole, and I spent probably about 3 months in the hole. Again, I'm pregnant. And at this time, I'm really hopeless because I'm thinking I'm going to deliver my daughter or my child, and they were going to keep her in Trinidad. And so I was kind of like trying to find ways where literally that I can have a miscarriage, because I didn't want to deliver a child and then they kept my child. And so I
Wow.
spent 3 months in a hole.
Mhm.
And it was at that point that I began to pray. And I began to pray and ask God just to, protect me and to help me. And it was in that moment that I realized it was awakening, a spiritual awakening, if you will. And I went into the cell cussing, mean, angry, and I came out. I was humble. I didn't even know what that word was then.
Mm.
I was humble. I wasn't allowing anything on the outside of me to provoke me or to bother me and cause me to act out of character. And I'm gonna tell you this: it wasn't the holding cell that changed me.
Mm.
Again, that was just an avenue that God used to get my attention. So even though I was locked up away from my family members, away from the people that I love, I was still in an environment where other people was around. So literally that 3 months of being in that holding cell helped me to really come in one with my creator, one with the God of my understanding. And it was at that point that I knew that I was going to make it, and I knew that I was going to be used to help other people. I
Hmm.
knew that at that moment, while pregnant, in the holding cell, feeling hopeless. And I knew that something good was going to come out of it.
Wow, wow. That is really key because a lot of times we're in these dark places. Yours was physical, but sometimes the dark places can be mental where we don't see our business growing the way we want it to grow. We don't see people really supporting us the way we thought they should. And that could create a emotional darkness around us. But you were able to find uh, really the light in that dark situation, and you give credit to God in your discovery of what it means to be humble, what it means to pray. And I think that is phenomenal, Lashonna, because when sometimes it takes us to be at our wits' end for us to realize the power of Jesus Christ. Sometimes it takes us to be in that dark hole before we realize, like, wow, God has promised us light, and in His light we will see light.
Yes.
Like that is the journey that I don't want others to have to go through, because not everyone has been through such trauma. But
Right.
sometimes when you hear stories, you think like, oh, maybe I have to go through something in order for me to get a close relationship with God. No, take
Right.
it from us. Learn from this show, girl. Share your story. That if you have been on a path of nothing happening that's traumatic to you, stay on that path. But if
Right.
in the event you find yourself where you are stuck, where you've messed up so much, the person that you should go to that can repair it all, that can heal it all, is the name of Jesus. Call on His name
Yes.
and you will be set free. Lashonna was in jail. She was in prison in a different country, pregnant. How far along were you when you were in the holding cell?
I was actually 2 months.
In the beginning, and then when you were in the solitary confinement?
Yeah, I was actually, when I got into the confinement, I was 4 months. 4 months. Yeah,
4 months
delivered
pregnant.
my daughter while I was there, and she had to get a passport to come back to America.
Wow. So you gave birth in prison.
Yes.
Wow. What do you say, Lashonna, to those people who are trying to birth their dreams in
Mm.
the prison of low expectations, in the prison of generational curses and cycles where they feel like my mother never became anything, so I don't think I can become, but in my heart, I feel like I want to do something different. What do you say to those people who are stuck in their prisons right now, but so desperately are looking for a way to get out?
Yeah. So the funny thing is that even though I talk about my prison experience in my book Behind Bars, it actually talks about how I was behind bars in my mind, in my thinking. And so what I would share with someone who may feel stuck, right, and trying to birth that thing that they believe God has called them to birth, I would tell them to pay attention to what they're entertaining in their minds. Pay
Hmm.
attention to the thoughts, the lies that they may be believing that they need someone else in order to make it happen. You know, unfortunately, I didn't have, even when I think about where I am today, I can't say I had someone literally guiding me through. Now, I gravitated to mentors in the process, but it's going to take determination to not give up even when you're faced with challenges and obstacles. It's going to take, determination to keep going even when everything in you wants to quit. You
Hmm.
know, when I started my business, I didn't have a photographer, I didn't have an editor. So what I did, I went and I searched, I YouTube, I did all kind of things to learn how to do it, because what I was birthing was too great for me to allow someone else to hinder that thing.
Mm.
So I just encourage those of you who may be watching, don't allow anything, not your past, not what you have or what you don't have, to stop you from reaching your goal and birthing that thing that you've been feeding for so long.
Yeah, that's amazing. India, she says that this helps so much, and I'm so glad that you're giving value because there are things that we use excuses. Like Lisa says, excuses are sexy because we dress them up and we make it sound so good that we start to believe that we can't do it, that we don't have enough money to get an editor or to get a photographer or whatever the excuse is. We dress it up so that it looks good enough for us to say at the end of the day, I didn't get it done because I did not have the thing to do to get it done.
Yes.
And that's not what you did. You didn't let excuses be your bedrock. You didn't pile up a mountain of excuses and decide to stand on it. What you did, Lashonna, is exemplary. It's a great example of what you can do with absolutely nothing.
Yes.
If you're starting from scratch, if you're trying to bounce back, you absolutely have enough resources to do what it is that God told you to do. You have resources in the form of people, in the form of technology. You have everything that you need to get started. So I want you to let's go to the chat. We have Sunny. He said, I have a whole new level of love and respect for you. Thank you for sharing. We appreciate you, Sunny. Trust me, I feel the same way. Lashonna is on a whole different level. And that's what's so amazing about sharing your story. It's like, yes, we live in a world where there's so many coaches and whatever you do, there are a lot of people who are competing with you in a sense, meaning they do exactly what you do. But what's going to separate you is your story, because there are people that will only respond to the messages that you have to say. There are only people who will respond to the services that you have to offer when you share your story.
Yes.
There are people who are watching us now, Lashonna, who are choosing you as their coach, that are choosing you to be that person who will lead them from their prison, their mental prison, into their purpose. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that. Tell us, Lashonna, when you finally got out, your daughter was born, and how did you begin to put the pieces back together?
So when I got out, I knew that God wanted to use me. And so I had no desire to, or no goal in going to college and getting a degree or anything like that. Think about it, where I was raised and how I was raised, that graduating high school was a big deal. And so when I got out, I was on parole. And one day my parole officer said, you would be a good social worker. I never heard of social workers. Once I realized what social workers did, I said, man, I needed a social worker when I was younger. And so after that conversation with my parole officer, I began to enroll in school. I obtained my bachelor's in social work, and I ended up going an extra year getting my master's. And the story just flows from there. But this was the mindset, right? The mindset for me, because I knew I was coming home and I was going to have a criminal record. I knew that there were going to be doors closed in my face due to my record. I knew that everybody wasn't going to, kind of forgive me for my past mistakes and just, welcome me with open arms. I knew that coming out. And so one of the things I told myself, see, it's more about what we tell ourselves than what other people tell us. One of the things I told myself was, if they don't open a door, I'm going to kick it down. The other thing I told myself is, if they don't give me a seat at the table, I'm going to create my own table. And so what I did was I published my first book in 2009 and started my business, You Can Change Counseling and Consulting. And that business literally just unfolded. I started with publishing and interviewing individuals who were in leadership positions. And so then it just really unfolded to now I have my private practice. I teach at the University of Toledo, graduate level students. Now I'm talking about someone who was voted least likely to succeed.
Wow.
Someone who was looked at as, poor and dusty and whatever other names. And now here I am. And the other beauty of it is that I'm in a position to be to others what I wish I had.
Mm.
See, it's something about going through the storm and coming out and now being able to help someone else get through it. And so when you talked about coaching, that's the thing, right? Having someone, see, LeBron James, he have to be out on the court, but he have that coach that's showing him some things that he may not see, because he's used to dribbling, right? He's used to getting his shot, but having a coach to be able to let you know what moves to make and who could be in the way. And so that's the importance. And I didn't get a chance to have that as I pursued or came to where I am today. And so now literally I'm able to be a mother to some of the young women and men that I come in contact with. And I didn't have a mother. And I hear a lot of people saying, how do I be the father when I didn't have a father? And my answer to that is be what you wish you had. And I have an opportunity to be to others what I wish I had.
Man said in the chat, be what you wish you had. Be what you wish you had. If you never received gifts as a child, be a giver. If you never received love as a child, be a lover in not a sexual way. But if you've never received it, be it. Like, you are not the amount of your experiences, but you are what you do with those experiences. And I love that. I mean, I guess the next book should be, from prison to professor. Like, come on, how do you do that? Like, that's such an incredible jump, such an incredible leap. And I know that you could have only done it with God's help, man. That's awesome. I love one of our guests said, Jeremiah 29:11. Yes. For I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Yes, to give you a future and a hope. India's like, yes, that was so inspirational. And after hearing your story, Lashonna, she's like, I have no more excuses. Come on, take advantage of your youth, man. I know that you wish you could have gotten some of the time back, but we can't play it back, but we can definitely move forward. So tell us, what would your advice be to a young person right now who's in their 20s, who feel like life is just, they have so many days to do it, so they're going to put off doing what they're supposed to do and procrastinate. What do you say to that young person?
Wow. I say do it now, because you don't know. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You don't know what 5 years is going to bring. I say do it now. And what do I mean by do it now? Get that thing in your mind, that the passion that you have. See what you can create. Write that book. Start that business. Don't wait until you feel like you have to be a certain age. Put the blinders on and go full force, full speed ahead. You got to be laser focused. And I would not wait. Even saying that I'm young, that's what we call a blocking belief. See, we have these blocking beliefs that literally hinder us from reaching our goal. Things like I'm too young, I may not be the person, my background, those are what we call blocking beliefs. And those blocking beliefs will really literally hinder us from moving forward. But I wanted to share this too. My husband and I, we were having this conversation, and one of the things, and I promise you, he can tell my story better than I can. But one of the things he was bringing to my attention, he said, when people are in prison, they can go out on the yard, they can work out, they can go to the library, and they can, look up, different things. He said, but your change happened after you got out. He said, what happened that made you stay focused? What was that thing that kept you on the road, even in the midst of being back in your same environment? Because when I got out, I had to go back to the same environment. And as I pondered that question, I was like, I was just determined. I was just determined. Like, I was determined not to allow a man, like not to allow money, and not to allow family to get me off focus of what it is that I knew I had to do. See, some of you who are watching, there's some things you're supposed to do. Like, you're supposed to write the book. You're supposed to start the business. You're supposed to go back to school, but you're allowing those blocking beliefs to actually hinder you. And so I encourage you after today that you make up in your mind that you're no longer going to allow external things or blocking beliefs to stop you from pursuing your goal.
Yes. Man, that is incredible. And that is a perfect call to action to everyone watching and those who watch the replay. Listen, don't let those blocking beliefs keep you from achieving your goals because, listen, you're supposed to do it. There are people who will only respond when you tell it. So, thank you so much, Lashonna, for sharing your story. Listen, tell the people how they can get in touch with you to learn more about the waves that you're creating in this world.
Yes, they can reach out to me at my on my website at www.uchange, and that's the letter U, uchangellc.com. They can also reach me by calling 419-214-9366. That is my phone number if they want coaching, life coaching, consultation, any of those things. However, I can assist you, reach out. You can email me at uchangellc@gmail.com. That's the
Wonderful.
letter U, change. Okay.
And that's the letter U.
Yes.
You change. Great. And if you didn't get all of that, listen, you'll be able to reach out to me on Facebook and I'll provide you with Lashonna's information. I love this. It says, love your testimony. Thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate you, Lashonna. And remember that just like Lashonna, your story matters. And if you want to turn that story into a best-selling book, make sure you go to girlshareyourstory.com and all the details are there. I'm Chantel, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. God bless you. Bye-bye.